All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about something you've definitely heard of, but maybe don't know the full story on electrolytes. Think of them as the unsung heroes of your body, these tiny little particles that are literally the spark plugs for your entire system. Today, we're going to break down exactly how they keep you running.
So, have you ever had one of those days? You finish a tough workout, or maybe it's just been a long, hot day and you just feel off, weak, maybe a little crampy, just not quite right. Well, chances are what you were feeling was your body sending out a little SOS. It's a direct signal that your internal balance, your electrolyte balance, was out of whack. And that feeling, that signal, it all points to this one huge concept: homeostasis. It sounds complicated, but it's really just your body's number one mission. It's this constant, automatic push to keep everything inside of you stable and balanced. Just right. And this isn't a part-time gig. It's a 24/7 job. And guess who the key employees are? Yep, electrolytes. They are right at the heart of it all.
So, to pull off this incredible balancing act, your body basically lives by two golden rules. Let's get into what they are. Okay, rule number one is all about electrical charge. You've got positive particles and negative particles, cations and anions. They have to be in perfect balance, kind of like a seesaw, to keep your body electrically neutral. Rule number two is about fluid. The amount of stuff dissolved in the fluid inside your cells has to match the amount of stuff outside your cells. This is called osmotic equilibrium, and it's absolutely crucial. Without it, your cells would either shrivel up like raisins or swell up and pop like water balloons. All right, so now that we know the rules of the game, who are the actual players on the field? Let's meet your body's all-star electrolyte team. But wait, let's back up for a second. What is an electrolyte, really? Well, simply put, it's a substance that gets an electrical charge when you dissolve it in a fluid, like water or, your blood. These charged particles are called ions, and these are what conduct electricity through your body. They're the reason your nerves can fire off signals and your muscles can contract. They're literally the electrical wiring of your body. So here's the starting lineup. We've got the big names: potassium, sodium, calcium, and a few others. Each one has a super specific, critical job to do. So let's kick things off with the main player that works its magic from inside your cells. And first up to the plate is potassium. You can think of this one as the muscle maestro. It's conducting the orchestra of your muscles and your nerves. And get this, a whopping 98% of all the potassium in your body is hanging out inside your cells, basically running the whole show from the inside out. So what's it doing in there? Well, it's absolutely vital for sending nerve signals and for making your muscles contract. And every muscle, from the ones you use to walk all the way to your heart muscle itself. And the good news is, you can find it in a lot of great foods, like fish, avocados, tomatoes, and yeah, of course, the famous one, bananas. But what happens when that balance gets thrown off? If you have too little potassium, that's called hypokalemia, you're looking at some serious fatigue, muscle weakness, and those awful leg cramps. On the flip side, if you have too much, hyperkalemia, that can cause scary heart rhythm problems and that weird pins and needles tingling sensation. And I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but in really severe cases of either too much or too little potassium, the consequences are critical. It can actually lead to cardiac arrest. This really drives home the point that this balance isn't just a nice to have. It is absolutely essential for life. Okay, so if potassium is the star player inside the cells, let's talk about the big boss outside the cells. And that is, of course, sodium. If potassium is the muscle maestro, think of sodium as the master fluid manager. Sodium's main gig is to manage how much fluid is in your body. It basically determines how concentrated or diluted your blood is. And just like potassium, it plays a big part in transmitting nerve impulses. You'll find it in a lot of processed and salty foods, like bacon, pickles, even tomato juice. And yeah, an imbalance here is just as serious. Too little sodium, hyponatremia, can mess with your heart, giving you a fast, weak pulse, and it can cause swelling or edema. But too much sodium, hypernatremia, and your body goes into overdrive. You get that intense, can't quench it thirst, your mouth feels all dry and sticky, and you might even feel agitated or get muscle twitches. And when those sodium levels swing to the extreme, the brain really feels it. We're talking profound neurological impacts. In the worst cases, severe imbalances can actually trigger seizures. It's a really stark reminder of how deeply connected our electrolytes are to our brain function. All right, let's move on to our next player, calcium. Now, everyone knows calcium is for strong bones and teeth, right? That's what we all learn as kids. But its job description is actually way, way bigger than that. It's true that most of your calcium, we're talking over 90%, is locked up in your skeleton. But that tiny little bit floating around in your blood, it's an absolute powerhouse. It's helping with nerve function, it's essential for blood clotting, and it keeps your heart beating steadily. But here's the catch. Your body can't absorb calcium without a very important partner, vitamin D. They're a team. And the effects of a calcium imbalance are really fascinating because they're polar opposites. If you have too little, hypocalcemia, your nervous system gets all jumpy and overexcited. You might get twitching, anxiety, even spasms. But if you have too much, hypercalcemia, it's the complete opposite. Everything slows down. You get fatigue, muscle weakness, confusion, and you run the risk of developing painful kidney stones. So what happens if your body is low on calcium for a long time? Well, it gets desperate. It will literally start stealing calcium from its own savings account, your bones, to keep the levels in the blood stable. And over time, this demineralization, it weakens the bones so much that they can break from just minimal stress. These are called pathological fractures.
Okay, so we've met the big three: potassium, sodium, and calcium. But they're not a solo act. There's a whole supporting cast that's just as critical to this whole balancing act. So let's give them a quick shout out before we wrap up with how you can support this incredible system.
Yeah, we've also got to give credit to magnesium, which is crucial for nerve function. There's chloride, which is sodium's main partner, and phosphorus, which is essential for both your bones and for creating energy in your cells. See? They're all part of this super intricate dance. And really, it all comes down to this one simple, powerful idea. To maintain that perfect balance, that homeostasis we talked about, your intake has to equal your output. What comes in must equal what goes out. That's it. That's the fundamental equation for your health. So what can you do to help your body with this? Well, the good news is it's not super complicated. First, aim for a diet that's packed with a variety of real foods, fruits, vegetables, that kind of stuff. That gives your body all the raw materials it needs. Second, stay hydrated. Electrolytes need water to do their job. Third, try to be mindful of super processed foods, which can overload you with sodium. And maybe the most important thing of all, just listen to your body. Thirst, fatigue, cramps, those aren't random, they're signals. Pay attention to them. Look, your body is working around the clock, 24/7, trying to find this perfect, life-sustaining balance. It never stops. So the real question is, what's one thing you're going to do today to help it out, to give it a hand in its incredibly important mission?